Chapter 3. From Shanghai to Jingdezhen via Nanjing. Sunday, 6th September 1992. It was time to leave Shanghai. We boarded train number 2, which was quite modern and even air-conditioned. To be honest, it was a little bit of a disappointment. In the back of my mind, I naturally had the stories told by innumerable adventurers who had traveled through China by train. Very clear in my mind was, in particular, Orvar Karlbeck's book Qinpu Tailu, which even begins with him leaving Shanghai in June 1908 by train to go to Nanjing, at that time on a newly opened railroad. I even have Nathaniel Wesson's own copy of that book, soft-bound and nearly worn out, on my bookshelf back home. Looking out through the window at the landscape whizzing by, I couldn't help but wonder how much life had really changed for these rice farmers working their fields during the 80 years that had passed since Karlbeck traveled this very route. Evening arrival in Nanjing. We arrived in Nanjing, the southern capital, at 5:45 p.m. So much has come to pass here in China's history. When you have studied a place for years and finally set foot on it, it can feel quite overwhelming in a way that others might not understand. To most people today, Nanjing is the capital of the Republic era and the site of the atrocities committed during the Japanese occupation. But to me, it is also the capital of the first Ming Emperor, a city from which the entire Yuan dynasty was pushed out of China. It was here that the legendary Porcelain Pagoda of Baohen-si, the temple of repaid gratitude, once stood before its destruction in the mid-19th century. And it was here too that the great explorer Zheng He, known as the Admiral, lived. It is, to put it simply, a lot to think about. Our overnight train wouldn't depart until late, so we hired the guide who had met us and asked him, along with his coach, to show us around. We saw parts of the ancient Ming period city wall, the park with the 5 islands, and a curious fiberglass turtle parked on a bridge at Xuanwu Lake. This pay turtle was apparently set up so tourists could pose with it for a photo for a small fee. It took us a little while to figure that part out. Practically speaking, I was hauling around a camera kit that weighed a ton. To top it off, the driver got upset with us, apparently because we tipped him too much. Well, you live and learn, or at least you learn. We ended the evening with a European buffet at a hotel in Nanjing that, until recently, was said to have been the tallest building in China. Allegedly, it had 2,000 employees and 700 rooms. The figures seemed improbable, but the impression I got was that China was consciously expanding its infrastructure, railways for cargo and labor, airports for businessmen, and hotels at major hubs. It also appeared that every hotel position that might require 1 staff member was instead staffed by 3, 2 of whom were trainees. It's a smart strategy. With this setup, entire waves of knowledgeable hotel workers are being trained and then sent out to staff new hotels, where the same process continues. Internships are combined with theory and language training, and while pronunciation might be a challenge, communication often worked well by writing in English. Late night departure to Jingdezhen. At 10:15 p.m., train 389 departed Nanjing, bound for Jingdezhen. It was a night train, a so-called soft sleeper. I've traveled with these before, and frankly I don't want to imagine what a hard sleeper might be like. It was crowded and incredibly warm. The textiles were fine, but everything else was covered in soot. The route ran west from Shanghai, then turned south. It was hard to say what was worse: the temperature, the jarring noise of the train, the roaring air that swept through our compartment and shredded the bed sheets like broken sails whenever the window was open, or the grinding rattle of the warlord-era green electric fan in our room if we dared to close the window. Jarl finally put the fan out of its misery by stabbing its electric cord with a penknife. We settled on keeping the window almost closed as a compromise. The night was spent in good spirits and among good friends. Jarl, always prepared, produced a clever little leather box containing several small steel cups. We shared a much-needed nightcap. This set, however, was never seen again. I must assume that the wind hurled it out through the window sometime during the night. So much for seeking a little bit of authentic adventure.